Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We're back. It's Tuesday. We don't usually do Tuesday at 11. This is a new time slot for us. I'm Gianni Battici, today's host, and I'm joined by a regular midweek. It is the former world number 4 in FPL. It's Bigman Backer. How are you, mate?
Hello, Gianni. Thanks for having me. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, I'm all good, Gianni. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad considering I have had a few red arrows now in a row, another stinking game week. But it is what it is. I look for I'm semi ready for the end of the season now. I semi don't care where I'm at right now, but at the same time, we've got 5 weeks remaining, of which 3 of them are doubles, and of which 2 of them I'm using chips in. So at the same time, I'm excited, especially by the double game weeks.
Yeah, but you sound a bit downbeat. I mean, I think this is actually the time where you're gonna sort of make some big gains because around 50% of the game don't have a wild card left. So you're actually in a position where you can combine the wild card with the bench boost and make big gains in the doubles to come.
True, but it's the same wild card that everyone else. You're right, it's 50%. But if you go content creators or people you interact with on social media, then it's like what? You're one of it's 90%. And I feel like I'm going to have the same team as everyone else. And I don't compete with the casuals. I compete with you. I compete with other creators. Like somewhere there, that's who I'm trying to beat. If I'm completely honest, I'm not trying to beat random.
That's fine, but even let's say even the people who will be wildcarding, that's still a small bubble, right? The engaged managers, at least the content creators, the engaged managers, that's still a small bubble. That even I still think that you should back yourself to beat a lot of other people who will be wildcarding, even the content creators. It's fine. I mean, I think there's still a few spots where you can differentiate. I was actually making a draft this morning, and I wasn't really sure about 4 or 5 slots. So I think there's big scope of going different.
Yeah, I think I probably will as well, especially because next week I'm away, which means I'm missing our stream next week. And genuinely, my schedule for that. So I fly to Miami in the morning, and then I'm in Seattle. I'm 4 or 5 days in Miami, then I'm 4 or 5 days in Seattle. And my schedule for the next 10 days is quite scary. I have no idea what I'm going to even do this week with my team, let alone next week, which happens to be wildcard week. Like, oh my God. So in a way, I'm quite happy about the idea of having 10 minutes to do a wildcard. And genuinely, I've not even put together a draft. And I won't before my trip. So I'm going to do a very old school Gianni reactionary 10 minutes on a Friday type team, which always stood me in good stead. No overthinking, not looking at anyone else's team or any other influence from any other podcast or YouTube show, just going back to how Sachin, how arrogant. I don't care about the casuals. Jesus, man. I'm being brutally honest, Sachin. That's why people like to perhaps tune in for my opinion. I genuinely don't care about beating the casuals. And by the way, no one watching this YouTube show is a casual. I'm talking casuals are those that don't watch YouTube channels or pods or are on FPL social media.
Basically people who don't consume any kind of FPL content.
Yeah, exactly. No, Sachin, wrong again. The casuals don't pay the money either. Casuals are people who we don't interact with, who spend 5 minutes on a Friday doing their team. My father-in-law is a casual. He would have no idea what tips to follow or who to follow. He just picks based on the 1 or 2 games a weekend he watches. Anyway, thank you for the likes and subscribes, guys, and for supporting the channel as always. Looking forward to seeing your comments. Keep them coming in today's show. But yeah, big man, it's going to be a proper reactionary wildcard next week. And you're right, there is loads of places you can differentiate, isn't there?
Exactly. I think there are plenty of spots where you can differentiate, and it's fine. If you're flying to Miami tomorrow, it's fine because I don't think this week is going to be hectic for people who are not on a free hit. I think the decisions are fairly straightforward.
You think?
I mean, of course. I mean, there's only 1 or 2 transfer decisions that you have to think about. There's Champions League today, tomorrow. Then there's a Liverpool game on Thursday. I don't really think that you can massively make major changes that will overhaul your squad because you've made most of your decisions, and I guess your team will be sort of close to a free hit team. So it's just that situation where you've sort of made your bet and you're going to lie in it. It's not like people who are on a free hit who have to constantly tinker and decide between different slots in their team. For us, it's 1 or 2 different transfer decisions, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm making 3 transfers this week, and there's about 7 players I like. So let me just give you those 7 players that I could bring in this week, big man. Let me know your thoughts in the chat as well. There are 2 defenders I like. I don't even know if I'll make a defensive transfer. Trent is one, Menezes is another. Munoz. Then I've got 4 midfielders I like: Eze, Diaz, Jota, and Havertz. And then I've got 1 forward I like, Darwin, but I don't think I'll get that. So from those 7 players,
no Elise.
No, Eze over Elise.
That's surprising.
I've got Mateta already, remember. So from those 7 players, I'll almost certainly be transferring in 3 of them.
And I have no idea which fine. Yeah, again, I'll have to sort of see your team to see which 3 I would recommend. But again, I think that's nice. You have a shortlist in mind, and hopefully for most people, I would assume that the decision will be straightforward.
Maybe.
Are you okay? Let's begin with our discussion. So speaking of, let's start with people who are not on a free hit, right?
Yeah.
So basically, people like you and me. How many doublers are you targeting?
So those 7 players, I'll be buying 3, are going to be doubling, and I'll almost certainly have a team of either 10 or 11 doublers. I mean, it could be 11, but I'm probably going to bench a Zabani to start a Haaland or a Foden.
Of course.
So I'll have 10 doublers plus 1 Man City attacker, I think.
Are you considering selling Haaland at all? Has that crossed your mind?
Yeah, so the Darwin addition would be at the cost of Haaland, and that would be if I needed the money to get a Trent. So I could go Bradley to Trent, Darwin to Haaland to Darwin, and then Son to either Havertz or Diaz or whoever.
Yeah, but that would be a hit, right?
That would be for -4. Yeah, I got 2 free.
You're selling Haaland to get Darwin. Okay, for free it might make sense, but for a hit it seems a bit flimsy. Yeah. But of course, you're sort of using it as a funding transfer. Yeah, you're using it as a funding transfer. So are you hot on Darwin now at this point in time? Let's talk Darwin.
I mean, it depends what I see on Thursday night. For Liverpool assets, if I rank them, the 2 I really want to buy this week that I'm most likely to buy are actually Jota and Trent, right? That I rank probably Diaz at 3 and Darwin at 4. So I can't see myself buying Darwin. I think Haaland will stay. And I think I could make 3 transfers, which could be Bradley to Trent, Son to Jota, and Foden to Havertz, for example. That works. I could do that. Sorry, I couldn't do that. I'd have to do Eze instead of Havertz because I wouldn't have the money to get up to Trent.
You've been targeting Havertz for weeks, so this is about time that you finally put your money where your mouth has been.
He should play number 9 again, because don't you think Arsenal sort of lacked his presence as the number 9 against Aston Villa? He's been playing number 9 for months, and then we see Jesus play the role, and it's just not quite the same. And I thought Havertz had quite a good game against Villa, but just different level of threat from midfield.
I agree. I think he should play up front. And even against Villa, even in the position he was playing in, he sort of had chances. It's not and Martinez, I remember, made a very good save from him. I think the upside is there for sure to target. And if you have a decent defense, then I guess you can afford to go there. But I think it's a very marginal call between double Arsenal defense and double Arsenal attack. I know that you've been a fan of Havertz, so I think you should stick with that. I personally have double Arsenal defense, and of course, I won't be using a transfer to move away from them. But sort of coming back to the discussion of which players to sort of target for those people who are not on a free hit, I think firstly you just stick with what you have. For example, if you have Haaland, I don't think he's a must sell. I think you keep him. Let's say if you have a perfect team where you have 11 players and no other transfer in mind, then I guess you can sell Haaland for either Mateta, Cunha, or Darwin if you're confident about his X minutes. Yeah. I'm not exactly that confident about Darwin anymore. I don't own him, and I've sort of been dreading not owning him for the past 2-3 weeks. He hasn't really done much damage, and I think I will probably now get away with it because I'm expecting one start in the double. I don't think he'll start both.
He started the last 9 games, though, big man. I think I'm with you, but he has started the last 9 football matches for Liverpool. Like, it's different now because Jota's back, but...
I mean, I agree. He's one of the most nailed attackers in the Liverpool attack after Salah, but he's been dropping stinkers after stinkers recently. And now with Jota back, Gakpo hasn't really been bad either. He's sort of done okay. So let's say if he starts against Atalanta and the Liverpool attack clicks, then I won't be surprised to see Klopp stick with the same team on Sunday against Fulham.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think Darwin is definitely vulnerable for 2 starts. What we see with Darwin is a ton of starts, the last 9, but we see a ton of early subs. Luis Diaz plays a lot more complete sets of 90, which is why I have Diaz slightly ahead of Darwin in terms of X minutes. But because Liverpool have been producing tons of chances of late, what haven't they been doing? Finishing them off. And even Salah has been guilty of poor finishing. Diaz, Darwin, definitely the same. And I just wonder, because of Jota's now 2 cameos off the bench, if Jota gets 60 minutes against Atalanta, or even a 45, I think we could see Jota even getting 2 starts in the double game week. And if we do, knowing his ownership, knowing he's listed as a midfielder, knowing he's probably the best finisher at the club outside of Salah or alongside Salah, Jota's the guy I really want, I think, from those Liverpool attackers. I think I'm more likely to buy Jota than Darwin. I'm more likely to buy Jota than Diaz.
Okay, as of now, if you had to sort of rate their X minutes for the double game week, you have Jota over Diaz and Darwin? I don't think that would be the case.
I'd have them all very similar. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it without seeing what they get on Thursday night. But Jota has been back by the time the deadline comes, Jota would have had 3 matches back. He'll be ready to start without doubt. Whether he starts 2 is another question, but he could easily get an 80 and a 30. And would you take the 110 minutes, 120 with it? I don't know. Maybe you would.
Honestly, we're splitting here, deciding which Liverpool attacker is the best to go for, because honestly,
it's a lottery.
It is a complete lottery. It is almost impossible to call. I personally think that maybe Luis Diaz is slightly ahead of Darwin for the double, but I can't say that with even 1% of confidence. It could easily be the other way around. So as of now, I think Salah is probably the only Liverpool attacker who's going to play both. And then there's coming to defense, I think there's I guess Virgil is the boring, sensible pick. I still don't think that I trust Trent enough to start 2 games,
even though he started, Liverpool defender,
even though he came on.
They've not kept a clean sheet for months. I can't, unless it's Trent, I can't buy a Liverpool defender. There's just not the upside there. For me, I'm not spending 6.5 million on a Virgil or a Robbo, but I would, or 7, whatever they are. But I would find the 8 million to buy Trent if we think he'll start both.
Yeah, but then who do you sort of go on and select on a free hit? Because you want Liverpool players. They have the standout fixtures. You want the likes of you want players playing against Everton, playing against Fulham, right? Playing for a team like Liverpool. So who do you go for in that case? Because
Trent, Jota, Salah, and you pray.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced. Trent does have upside, but again, I'm not convinced whether he starts both games. Same with Jota. As of now, if I was sort of picking 3, I would probably go with Salah, Virgil, and then one of Luis Diaz and Darwin and Prey. Again, a lot depends on the Atlanta game. As of now, I think maybe Luis Diaz is better. Again, I'm not very confident, so it's tricky. For non-free hitters, though, I don't think any of these guys is a must-have to bring in. I guess if you have a defensive slot, you can sort of sell Porro for Virgil or Son. If you have Son, I think Eze is actually the standout pick.
Do you? Would you have Eze over Havertz? And would you have Eze over a Diaz or a Jota then? Where would you rank those midfielders that we don't own? Eze, Jota, Diaz, Havertz.
So this is basically very, very pertinent to my team because I'm in a very similar position where I don't have a third Liverpool, so I can buy Luis Diaz, Jota, I can buy Olise, Eze. I think I prefer Eze simply because of the security minutes.
Same.
Penalties, set pieces, and he's just so talismanic and a bit of a bonus magnet as well. It just gets bonus points whenever he sort of tends to return. I really like the fixtures for Palace as well, actually. I think 2 homes against 2 struggling defenses, against West Ham and Newcastle, who are conceding goals for fun. I mean, Newcastle haven't really conceded in the past 2 games, but their underlines are still pretty terrible. So I would back Palace to score, let's say, at least 3 goals in those 2 fixtures. Yeah. So I like the look of their attack. I think if I was picking one Palace attacker, I would definitely go with Eze. So Son to Eze would be the preference for a lot of people who are not on a free hit. That's what I would suggest. I think I would go with Eze over Diaz. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I definitely have Eze over Diaz. I'm not sure. I think I would have Jota over both, and I'm not sure where I am with Kai. A lot of where I'm at with all those picks comes down to Arsenal's Champions League game on Wednesday and Liverpool's Europa League game on Thursday. If Arsenal lose, for example, to Bayern Munich, they could crumble. This will be the week that kills their season. They lose at home to Villa. They lose to Bayern Munich. Going into the weekend fixtures, I think their heads could be really down. And I don't expect this Arsenal team to go, I'm going to bite back and go and beat Wolves 3-0. If they beat Bayern Munich and the momentum is with them and Havertz looks sharp, I could rank Havertz higher. But if we just take Arsenal out of the equation, I think Eze is the standout pick at Palace. He's also cheaper and easier to get to for many. He also enables, if you're going from, say, a Son to an Eze, that might allow you enough money in the bank to upgrade one of your defenders to Trent, if you want to punt on Trent. And then the other player at the back of my mind is Jota, who I've said I rank as number one of all those mids. And that's because Jota has got the biggest ceiling. We just need the minutes. But if we get 120 minutes of Jota, and I think we'll only get 120 minutes of Darwin, then Jota could be gold for 120 minutes. Like,
I think
Jota.
The litmus test for Jota is going to be the Atlanta fixture. If he starts and does well there, then I would think that he would start both games, because the Liverpool attack, clearly there's something that's not working. It's not been
clicking.
clinical enough. And if Jota scores and they look, good against Atalanta, then I highly doubt that Klopp would change that formula. That has worked after a while. So that would make Jota a lot more appealing, and that might even make him higher of that might even put him ahead of Eze in the pecking order.
Yeah. I care more about the midfield slots than any other. Like, I might not go and buy a defender and just play Zabani. I might not buy a forward and play Haaland. That's most likely. But the midfield slots, I got 2 free transfers. Like, I'm probably selling Son and Foden. And with regret, I know I'll be buying Son and Foden back on wildcard. I think I'll probably end up buying Foden on wildcard. I know he's not in the template draft, but I think I'll end up going there. And it does give me less money for my wildcard. Huh? Is he?
He's in my draft now.
Yeah, I thought he might. When you said last week he wasn't going to be, I was thinking, nah, you'll want him. Palmer's the reason why I have him now. Sell. Team value in Palmer is high. As value in Palmer, not team value.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why sort of Palmer, if you can afford to keep Palmer, he makes a lot of sense, because again he ticks a lot of boxes, and I think he'll be in everyone's team again in Game Week 35. Yeah. But yeah, one of the reasons why I sort of went back to Foden on my wildcard is because all of a sudden I'm not really sure about Garnacho's X minutes. I had the Spurs mid in my draft, and I'm not really convinced about Maddison, Richarlison, or Johnson's X minutes either. So I've swapped the second Spurs mid and Garnacho to Gordon and Foden, and made some changes in defense to sort of.
Does that only give you double Spurs then? A Son and a Porro, or
Vicario?
Oh, okay. You're just going to hope that you get the save points, because you're not getting any cleans, but
yeah, exactly. Which is big in the double. That's fine.
Yeah. Keepers for save. I mean, there's an argument to say you should never really pick keepers for clean sheets anyway.
You know what makes it easier? Is the fact that I'm more convinced about Jackson now, and if he doesn't pick up that yellow, I can just go Gusto, Jackson, Palmer. I don't really need Petrovic.
No.
So that's what I'm basically looking at. Basically, Son, Udogie, Vicario from Spurs, and Palmer, Gusto, Jackson from Chelsea.
Jackson had a really good game last night. A really good game. I'm delighted for Neil Robertson, friend of the show, who wildcarded him in weeks ago, but kept hold of him. And he finally got his haul. And he wanted the penalty and didn't get it. Oh, Chelsea with the penalty is just so petulant. Okay, look, it's been good to address Liverpool and Arsenal assets. Let's just talk about Havertz and where you rank him with relation to Eze and the Liverpool mids of Diaz and Jota. And then we'll do the Eze-Elise comparison. So Havertz, we know you have Eze top, but would you go Havertz or would you go Luis Diaz?
I would go Havertz over Luis Diaz, I think. In isolation.
I think I would too.
Because, again, it's basically expected minutes. I think the key thing to sort of nailing this free hit in Game Week 34 will be in decoding the expected minutes. Anyone who gets the expected minutes right is going to just swim in points, basically. And that's going to be very, very tricky and very, very crucial. that's the challenge that a lot of people are going to face. With Diaz, I'm not exactly that confident about expected minutes, so that's the issue that I'm facing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. And Eze versus Elise, um, average position map, by the way, at the weekend, Eze was slightly more advanced, but just note Crystal Palace are playing a 3-4-3, and the two behind Mateta are Eze and Elise. They're both fairly narrow. They both love being in those central positions, and in those central positions, you're going to get shots on goal, and that's because there's wing backs in this team now. It's a back five
Yeah,
or a back
exactly.
three. So they provide the width. It's Mitchell down the left. It's Munoz down the right. Eze has been back fit a while. Elise's just returned. He had his first start at the weekend. I question him getting 2 sets of 90 in the double game week, knowing he's been out injured as long as he has. I think he starts both, but I wouldn't be surprised to see an early sub or two. Eze, I'd be surprised if I didn't see 170 plus minutes in the double game week. Is that what separates it for you, big man? Or is it the penalty thing? Because Elise has taken a penalty this season and scored it against Man City. And Eze was on the pitch at the time, but he'd just come on as a sub. I think Eze came on in the 91st minute, and in the 95th minute, there was a pen. Elise's name was on the board that match to be on pens because he is starting the game, and Elise took the pen. But it is worth noting, we're not absolutely set, not absolutely guaranteed that Eze is on pens. We think he is, but it's not nailed that he's on pens, is it?
I think you make an excellent point about the chances of reduced minutes, because we do expect him to start both games, but there is the chance of reduced minutes. An early sub as opposed to someone like an Eze, he's going to be nailed for the significant majority of the game. And I think we should sort of bring Mateta into the conversation as well, because he's actually been getting plenty of chances recently. He had 3 big chances against Liverpool actually, and he's sort of done.
I owned him.
Done well.
I was gutted. How did I not get points? He had an XG of 1.14. Yeah,
you played. He came on for Foden, right?
Foden, first sub.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you were very, very unlucky there because he had plenty of chances, and he should have. Alisson made a great save actually. The chance that he had from close range, but I think owning all 3 is fine. I like all 3. I think Eze is more of a goal scorer as compared to Elise. Both stats are more or less similar, but Eze has slightly higher goal threat. And Eze, as we say, has a higher likelihood of penalties and a higher likelihood of minutes, so would get our vote. And I think because he scored against Liverpool as well, he'll be very popular in the masses as well. But even apart from that, I think I was eyeing Eze for my own team for the past 3 or 4 weeks anyway, and I had that move penciled in for Game Week 34, irrespective of his returns at Anfield. So I really like Eze, and honestly, on a free hit, I would pick Eze and Elise both for sure, and maybe even Mateta, but I would definitely have Eze and Elise.
Interesting. We'll do a poll. If you can only have one, would you pick Eze, Elise, or Mateta? That's an interesting one. I couldn't believe how good Mateta looked against Liverpool. By the way, I know he's in my team and I've owned him a few weeks, and he was in my 11, but I didn't quite know he had all those tools to his game. This is a guy, remember, that's been pretty frozen out under Roy Hodgson. Like, couldn't get the minutes. Yet new managers come in and go, no, you're my leading number 9, and you're getting all the minutes. Edouard can wait on the bench, and Mateta has been scoring goals and creating chances, so he's looking sharp. And I think I'm with you. I still rank Eze and Elise higher. The difference and the struggle might be you might find it easier to make an attacking a transfer 20 or forwards. And the midfield spots, there are loads of ways you can go this week. The front 3 spots in terms of recruitment, I think there's fewer options, like especially budget. Cunha's an option, but I'd go Mateta all day long, given the fixtures. And then there's Palace defenders to discuss. If I was on free hit, we're going to see Bigmans draft, and spoiler alert, you're going to see triple Palace attack. I think I would have a defender or Henderson. I think I'd have Eze, Mateta, and then either Henderson or Munoz. I'd have one, because I also see clean sheets for Palace. I see 1 clean sheet in these 2 games.
It could happen. Honestly, there are a lot of picks which are very, very close this week. For example, Pickford, Henderson. For example, let's say Munoz, Mikalenko, even Virgil. I mean, all these guys, they're sort of close for expected points. I don't think there's a lot between them. And same for Cunha, Mateta. Like you mentioned, I think Cunha is probably going to be on penalties, so that sort of gives him the edge. But the fixtures are with Mateta, so I would probably side with Mateta just about. But again, these are all picks where you can go different, and I don't think any of these picks are, like, let's say, completely nailed or should be nailed in any of your drafts, because like they just go with your gut and just go with how you think the expected minutes will pan out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Question for you, big man. Thank you for all voting in the poll. Eze is winning. We'll see big man's free hit draft in a sec, but a personal question for my team, big man. Where do you rank Foden amongst these midfielders that we're discussing? For example, would you take a 4-point hit to sell Foden for an Eze or for a Havertz? Or would you go, actually, Foden's got one fewer games, but if we think he's going to start versus Brighton, that's a good fixture and we just hold him? Hanny in the chat has just said, would you remove Foden from -4 as I ask you that question? So yeah, it's a topical one. There are still, I think Foden's still around 30% owned. So
that's actually a very good question. I think
Get it on your thread, mate. Get that on your thread on Friday.
I just noted it down, actually. I just noted it down. I think I very marginally would lean towards saying yes, because I generally prefer to attack the double game weeks. And
even if it gives you 0.5 less on your wildcard draft the week after, because of course there's a lot. I've got a million in Foden.
Is it 0.5? That's 0.5 is a lot. Are you sure it's 0.5?
Remember when I bought Foden, mate? I was a very early adopter. Let me just tell you, I'm going to get my list view. If you ever want to know, go on the transfers and then go list view. So I bought Foden for 7.6. It's not quite that. I bought him for 7.6. He's now 8.2.
8.2, and you also have to sort of assume that he's probably going to fall this week. I think because he was benched, he didn't play at all, and now that he has a single week, I think there's a good chance that he falls as well.
He could do. I'm just looking now.
Can you check that on?
He's already dropped. He's already dropped. He was 8.3. He's already dropped to 8.2. He needs another 46,000 managers to sell him. So you're right. He could actually drop 0.2 this game week.
Exactly. I think that could happen, especially because a lot of people will be making their transfers on Friday after the European fixtures. So 46,000 is quite achievable, I would think. Even if not on Friday, then on Saturday at least. So I think selling value, at least in your case, won't be a factor. I did very similar with Porro last week.
Yeah.
I did very similar with Porro last week. I sold Porro despite the fact that I got him very early and I had 0.3 on him, but I sold him because it made sense for my team, and I think I would in your position as well. I would go for someone like an Eze, but again, it depends on who you're buying. For someone like Eze, yes, but
for Diaz, Harry says, would you do it for Diaz?
Sure. Again, this depends on how the Atalanta game goes. If he does well, if he's expected to play twice, then sure. If he's not, then I don't see the point of selling a single game weeker for a guy who's going to play 120 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the risk. If it's Havertz or Eze and you feel like you're going to get 170 minutes plus, then maybe you go, I'm buying a ticket to the draw. But if you're buying a Diaz who you wouldn't be surprised to see 120, if you're confident about Foden getting 90, you just keep Foden. And then last question on these Man City players, Foden and Haaland, you would play them over a double game week defender like a Mykolenko or a Zabani. There's no doubt in my mind I would. Like a Bournemouth or an Everton defender versus a Foden or a Haaland in your 11, you start the Man City player, right?
I would play Foden over the Bournemouth defender for sure, but I'm not sure Mykolenko actually, because Everton can easily keep a clean sheet there. And
Forest,
I'd probably play Mykolenko there, to be very honest. But I can totally understand people going Foden because it's a close call.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's have a look at your free hit team. We're going to see your actual team as well. The free hit team, I loved the fact how big we've gone on Palace. We did show you a team last week and it didn't have triple Palace. It goes to show what a difference a week can make. They go to Liverpool, they win. Elise's back fit. It changes things. So talk us through it, big man.
Yeah, so this is, the rough sort of template that I think a lot of free hitters will be going with. I mean, I endorse a lot of these picks. But again, as mentioned earlier, I think a lot of this will come down to how you expect the minutes to go. And there, for example, in goal, there's Pickford. You can easily go someone like a Henderson.
Yeah.
There's Mateta I've selected. You can easily go someone like a Cunha. Similarly, Diaz versus Darwin will come down to how the Thursday game is going to go. I have selected Darwin, but again, I don't have like an iota of confidence in him starting two games. This could easily be Diaz. I think I would actually prefer Diaz, to be very honest, at this point in time. Apart from that, I really like the draft. Gabriel White, I think double Arsenal defense sort of is really good, because there are not too many defenders I really like. So that's one of the reasons why I sort of went with double Arsenal.
Yeah.
I had Odegaard last week over double Arsenal defense, but again, we're not really sure about his fitness. That's why a lot of these picks have changed from last week. Similarly, Virgil, as mentioned earlier, I think is the pick of the Liverpool defense. If you're buying one, I'm still not convinced that Trent gets two starts. Solanke is a boring pick, but he just makes too much sense. Same with Eze, Salah, and Saka.
Solanke probably wouldn't have been in a week or two ago, because you'd have gone, oh, maybe I go for 3-5-2. But Solanke just does keep ticking along nicely. I guess I would go, I don't love the defenders this week. And one defender I do love, or backline I like this week, is Crystal Palace. So I guess I would try and I would probably make very few changes, but I would say take a Ben White out, put a Munoz in, and then with that, I would take an Elise out or a Mateta out and put a Havertz in. I think. Yeah, I'd probably take Mateta out and put Havertz in and go 3-5-2. And then it's just not triple City, not Palace triple attack, but still triple Palace. And I do think that's really interesting, because those on free hit can differentiate a little bit. They can have triple Palace versus the non-free hit teams that, yes, they might get 11 doublers out, but they'll probably only have one Palace, the non-free hit teams. So if Palace go big, that could really be a big swing, especially if you're on the right Palace assets. Yeah,
I think
let's come
to let's come to those players who I think should be nailed in all free hit teams. So the must-haves that I see from this draft are probably Gabriel, Saka, Salah, Eze. Olise is also must-have in my opinion. Solanke as well, and perhaps Virgil too. I'm not exactly convinced, but I would say Virgil, because I mean, after Salah is probably the Liverpool who fills me with the most confidence in terms of minutes. So yeah, these guys would be pretty close to nailed in my own team. And I guess you can play around with the Pickford, White, Mateta, Darwin slots.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if I'd have a Virgil as someone you need to find. I just can't see Liverpool. I think they concede to Fulham away, and then it's the derby. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Everton score, but you can always get that bullet header from Virgil. Of course you can. And Liverpool got their backs up against the wall. Ahmed does say about Trent. What would you need from Trent, big man? We've got Bradley's injury. We've got Liverpool needing to be more clinical in front of goal, produce more chances, whatever. Like, Trent is clearly, if they lose on Thursday or don't get through in the Europa League, they should be fighting on all fronts in the Premier League. They'll still believe they can win every game and then therefore have a chance of lifting the title. Does Klopp go, you're ready now, Trent, because you've already cameoed twice? He gets 30 minutes against Atalanta. He had 30 minutes at the weekend. Is he ready for a 70 and then maybe another 70 or a 90 in the week?
I mean, we all know of Trent's pedigree, but again, I'm just not convinced that he gets 3 starts in the space of a week. It's basically 3 starts in 7 days. I'm not sure whether he gets that, and he does have the upside, but again, I have my doubts with his starting minutes. I mean, you can go with Robertson if you want to go difference, but I think it's similar sort of applies to Robertson as well with Tsimikas, but Tsimikas I think is actually. I think if I was picking, I would probably go Robertson over Trent, to be honest, because Tsimikas has been really poor recently. So I don't see Tsimikas starting. So I realistically think that Robertson will start. But again, for safety, I think I prefer Virgil.
It is worth noting the Liverpool fixtures. They go to Bergamo on Thursday, right? So, and we don't know what team they're going to play. But then they play Sunday away at Fulham. So it's a trip to London. Then they play Wednesday to Everton. And then they play Saturday against West Ham in game week 35. So their next 3 Premier League games, all 3 of them are away from home. They're all on the road, including 2 trips to London in the space of 6 days after a trip to Bergamo. I do worry for even if we think Trent is back fine and ready, I don't think we see 3 in 6 days. Same with Jota, and actually the same with Darwin, right? Which does make me cautious over Liverpool. When we're recruiting Arsenal, who remember go to Munich on Wednesday night, they play Saturday against Wolves in the double game week, first part. Then they go Tuesday against Chelsea. So, okay, not the best turnaround, but Saturday, Tuesday is fine. One is away, but only a trip to Birmingham. The other one is at home to Chelsea. But then their 35 game comes on the Sunday. So they've got 3 games in 8 days versus 3 in 6. So again, buying a Havertz or an Odegaard or an Arsenal defender, or if you don't own a Saka, you should be less worried because of the spacing, because of the travel time as well. Yeah. So maybe that makes the Havertz versus Diaz question a little bit easier too.
That's. I think you've answered it very comprehensively, actually.
Yeah. That was the first time I looked at the spacing, but I knew it was tighter for Liverpool, but I wasn't sure it was quite a 2-day difference. That's quite a lot.
Gianni, we've discussed most things for the free hit. What about Wolves players? Let's cover Wolves and then Sheffield United. Wolves, any Wolves players that would come close to making the draft? I think Cunha is the most realistic one.
I think Aït-Nouri would still be in a free hit draft if we knew he was fit.
He still won't make it for me. I just don't like the Wolves defense.
Yeah,
which is why I won't personally go there. But yeah, I think we will have more concrete update before the deadline.
Gary and I think the likes of good.
I think the likes of Aït-Nouri and Sarabia are fairly popular for people who are not free hitting, because Wolves had a decent stretch of fixtures from game week 30, 31, and a lot of us ended up buying. But I don't think they'll be close to making the free hit squad if I was making one personally. I mean, I own Sarabia, but I won't have him if I was free hitting. I think Cunha would be probably the one which would be close. But I did
do a free hit draft, and because I said I was going to go 3-5-2 in my free hit draft, I'd have Solanke and Mateta up front, for example. I actually thought I could have a Cunha on the bench, and that would mean I have a Havertz in this sort of lineup in midfield. But I do have Aït-Nouri in my free hit draft. I rate Aït-Nouri for that Bournemouth fixture at home. That's the high ceiling fixture. Sure, I don't expect much against Arsenal, but I think I would go Aït-Nouri plus Gabriel. I think I'd have Aït-Nouri above White and Virgil, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I rate the Bournemouth attack. When you look at the clean sheet odds, Wolves have a roughly 25% chance of keeping a clean sheet in that fixture.
Yeah, but Aït-Nouri's going to score 3.
See, that's what you're relying on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just think Aït-Nouri's still will still be in the front 3 in certainly the first half of that double game, because Hwang's still not back.
Sheffield United?
Not for me. You could punt on a Berrett Diaz. If Diaz was a forward, I'd probably rate him higher than Cunha, but Diaz is a midfielder playing up front, and there's just no spaces in midfield. There's too many good midfield options. And McBurney, no. I mean, I can see them scoring goals. Because Burnley
the guys,
Man United are 2 bad defenses.
They're one of the worst defenses in the league. The problem is that Sheffield United are one of the worst attacks in the league. So that's the issue, right? But I don't necessarily mind picking one of Brenton Diaz or McBurney. I think if I either fit your structure, they're fine. Especially McBurney on pens, maybe. I mean, doesn't really inspire me with a lot of confidence, but I mean, I don't hate the pick necessarily.
I don't hate the pick for Diaz. Diaz would be my number 1.
I sort of get the reasoning behind it because the fixtures are really good. I would expect Sheffield United to score in both fixtures.
Yeah, 3 goals over 2 games, do you reckon, for them?
I mean, 3 is a bit of a stretch, maybe 2.
Mate, they're playing Burnley and Man United. If ever they're going to score 3 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, but I mean, Burnley, I still think are a better side than them, of course, so are Man United. So, I mean, I still won't be that confident, but I mean, you can expect a return or 2 out of either of them.
We need to talk about captaincy as well. The moment the armband's on Salah, I expect for both of us. Is there anything that would change your mind on that? Because I actually think outside of Salah, probably Eze. But I'm going to go
Saka
Salah.
is actually close to Salah. I'm going to go with Salah as well because of the security. But I think Saka is my vice captain actually, and he's the second best pick I think in the free hit draft after Salah.
Okay.
I mean, Arsenal, Arsenal will bounce back, and their fixtures are nice. I mean, Wolves away, Chelsea at home. You'd expect Arsenal to score around 3-4 goals, and Saka to be involved.
True. Yeah. Hey, if I'm looking at buying Havertz, then I clearly need to back that Arsenal attack. How do you think? Do you think what we see on Wednesday night matters though for Arsenal? Like, I'm big on, for this Arsenal team, half the battle I think is lack of experience or having been there, done that, confidence. And because it's a young team, I do feel like if they lose to Bayern or they get knocked out of the Champions League, we could see lackluster performances against Wolves and Chelsea. I think if they lose to Bayern, it might even put me off buying Havertz, you know?
It's a good question, but again, I mean the level of teams that they're facing in the league, they're much different to what they're going to face in the Champions League. So, I mean, I'm just hoping there's no injury as someone who's not on a free hit, because any injury would cause a severe sort of hit to my team, and I don't really want that to happen. But if you're on a free hit, then the higher the chaos, the better it is for you.
Let's do a poll. Are you captaining Salah in game week 34? Yes or no? We don't need to give other options. Let's just go Salah or no Salah. And I expect Salah will probably get over 50%, which will be interesting because he's been so out of form. And again, I'm really keen to see how Liverpool approach Thursday night. Will they rest a couple of players? I don't know. I don't think they will. I think they'll go full strength. But I think it was Jamie Carragher that mentioned maybe they just ride it off. But they did go to Atalanta and win 5-0 in the Champions League not that long ago. Okay, let's talk about hits in general this week, big man. We can see this is a great free hit team. Let's look at your team and talk about the option of hits both for you and for other managers. Like, how important is it to get the doublers in?
Yeah, for me, I've been sort of planning for this week since weeks, like most people who are not on a free hit. So I have Neto in goal, Virgil in defense, Saliba, Gabriel. I don't have Zabarni in my team simply because I just don't have room for him. I think the other guys have better fixtures. Haaland is the only single game weaker, but again, he has a better fixture than Zabarni. I think I will keep Haaland. I won't sell him because I don't think it's worth selling him for any double game weaker. At least not a forward with doubts over Darwin's minutes, and Cunha is still not really inspiring me with as much confidence. So I think Haaland can still do well. I'd expect a goal out of him against Brighton, which will be fine. And then I mean, Salah, Saka, Sarabia. The transfer this week is of course going to be Son out.
Yeah, that's why you've left him in the 11 there. Yeah.
Exactly, and Eze will come in. I think that will be the case.
You don't have a third Liverpool, right? So you could, in theory, you've got 3 Arsenals. You can't go Havertz, but you could go Jota or Diaz.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. So
yeah.
So one of the reasons why I sort of haven't made that transfer, I can wait till Friday. I can see how Liverpool play. If Jota scores a
hat-trick in 40 minutes and gets a nice 40 minutes off the bench.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that could change my plans, but realistically, I think I'll go Eze.
Yeah. And hits, you don't need to take a hit. Your hit would be for someone like, you're going to have loads of money, right? You could go Son to Eze, and then Sarabia up to Jota or Diaz if you wanted to for a hit. Like, is Sarabia vulnerable in this team for a hit? If no, you're going to be flush. You're going to have loads of money.
I doubt it. I think he's still fine. As mentioned, the Bournemouth fixture should have goals in it. I still think that's fine. I don't expect anything out of him against Arsenal, but I mean, even if he gets like an assist against Bournemouth, I'll be fine. If he gets close to 6, 7, 8 points, that's a good return out of him. Again, the main concern is going to be the lack of Darwin, like as has been the case for every week, and I've sort of been getting away with it. I'm hoping that I get away with it again. But if Darwin scores a hat-trick against Atalanta, then yeah, I mean,
Mateta up to Darwin. Who would you sell, a Haaland or a Mateta?
Haaland. Yeah, Haaland. I won't sell Mateta for sure. I really like the Palace attack for the double, so not Mateta. I don't think I will sell Haaland, but yeah, it might be a consideration. Again, a lot of this comes down to how Liverpool play. The good thing about my team is that I I sort of have that flexibility with the third Liverpool,
Yeah.
and I can sort of choose to go different. Um,
Flexibility
I mean,
and loads of money. There's Son to Eze. If you do that and you've got 5 million in the bank or whatever it is, with that 4 or 5 million, which players could be upgraded? Like for a 4-point hit, which ones are the only ones that could be upgraded? I'm thinking Sarabia, Haaland. Is there anyone else? Maybe Neto?
no, I mean, I won't be taking a hit for a goalkeeper, neither for Sarabia, to be very honest.
No.
And let's say if Haaland does really, sorry, if Darwin does really well, and I sort of feel the need to bring him in my team, I can just play Zabarni, Ben Son, and do Haaland to Darwin without taking that hit.
Oh. Yeah, you could, but then you're so big on Eze, mate. You a bit like me with
Yeah,
Havertz. I need to buy Havertz this week, and you need to buy Eze this week because we've been talking about it for a month.
I agree, and there's like a 90% possibility that Santa Eze ends up being my transfer.
Yeah,
But you never know. If something ridiculous happens in the Liverpool game, at least I have the flexibility to go different.
yeah. Is there anything
But
that would
honestly,
go on?
I've been sort of meandering my way from game week 30 till 34 for the
Yeah.
past 4 or 5 weeks, hoping for, a damage limitation. I think I've to a certain degree I've gotten away with it as well. But now I think there's big gains to be made as opposed to people who wildcarded early. And for those people who don't have the bench boost in hand, I think now is the time where I can really sort of push on the accelerator and go big at the end of the season. So I'm really excited for the wildcard. This is going to be a week of damage limitation. I'm not exactly looking forward to it. I just hope I can get away with, a 5K rank fall at best, and
Yeah.
then I can, push on for the top 10K with the chips remaining.
Let's just talk for those that aren't using free hit this week. If they're on bench boost, or if they've got their bench boost and they're planning bench boost 37, you and I are both planning bench boost 37. Could you look at your bench this week and go, oh, with a hit or two, I could improve. Let's use your bench as a template. But of course, everyone will have slightly different players. But let's say you're benching a Palmer and you're benching a double game week Zabani, and your goalkeeper's got an all right fixture. Let's say you've got a Dubravka or an Areola, whatever. And maybe you go, I could take a -4 to go Taylor out to Trent. Let's say you got tons of money and bench boost. Is that worth consideration, or are the reasons for bench boost 37 so strong that you would say, no, hold it and bench boost 37?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. I think a lot of people are in this position where they can, they can afford to bench boost this week by taking a hit or two.
Mm.
But especially if you've got the wild card intact.
Yeah.
If you've got the wild card intact, the lure of bench boosting 15 players without taking a hit, hand-picked players on wildcard, it's just too good to pass up, especially because one of the main appeals of the wildcard is to play it with the bench boost to make the bench boost more stronger. That's one of the reasons why we've held off for so long, right? So that appeal is just too good to pass up, and I won't personally ignore that appeal.
One pro to using bench boost now and not 37 is so you can, when you wildcard, put all your money in your 11 and not necessarily have to do 15 good picks that will play twice in 15 in 37. But this wildcard we're going to be making next week probably isn't going to be tight on funds. So actually you can afford to put some money on your bench because you're probably not going to have a Salah, for example. Yeah. So
exactly.
It's worth thinking of that too. Like, because I'm very big on usually getting all my money in my 11. But for the run-in, I don't believe I need it. And therefore, I can bench boost in 37 and actually put a bit of money on my bench if I need to.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think with no Trent, no Salah, no Virgil, I think affording a good 15 and in 35 will be relatively easy because, the likes of, the Man United assets, the Newcastle assets, the Spurs assets, the Chelsea assets, these are the teams we'll be loading up on. I mean, these teams aren't as high priced as, someone like a Liverpool.
Yeah, they're cheapos. Free hit does look very good, Stephen. You're quite right. But likewise, there are a fair few managers out there, like Bigman, you can get fairly close to that free hit template just with a simple transfer or two. I'm still looking at 3 transfers and a hit. I might end up on 2. I'm still unsure if I'm going to be selling Son and Foden or if I just sell Son and keep Foden. So yeah, I look forward to updating you guys with my team later in the week. I'll put my team out on social, so I won't be doing any more content this week. Bigman, you'll be back next week without me, I think. Dean will be back on Friday. I'll be around doing Monday show. I can do Monday show because my timetable allows it from Seattle, where I'll be 8 hours behind the UK. But I can't do Wednesdays. So big man, you'll be on with someone else on Wednesday, I expect. And that'll be wildcard week. So I will be tuning in. I'll be absolutely tuning in to your wildcard draft on Wednesday's show. But yeah, any final thoughts from you, mate?
No, I think we've covered this week extensively. Again, I think a lot of this game week, like a lot of others, will come down to luck. There's so many 50-50 picks, which can go either way, right? It'll come down to that. Just enjoy the week, enjoy the football, and let's come back next week before the big double.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, please do hit those buttons. Like, and please think about subscribing to Chasing Green Arrows. Loads of great content coming up in the next couple of weeks. Make sure you hit that notification bell when you do. But for now, he's been Big Man, I've been Janny. We've been Chasing Green Arrows. See you later, guys.